Here's how I set the sleeves on this jacket with flat felled seams. I'm going to start by pinning the sleeves to the body of the jacket with the right sides together. And the first thing I like to do is match the top of the shoulder on the sleeve with the shoulder seam, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin that. And then I'm going to move down to the underarm/side seam at the front and match and pin those. And then I can work my way up to the shoulder, matching and pinning the edges. Now, I didn't draft the sleeve cap with any ease, but there did end up being a little bit extra right here at the shoulder. I could have rotated the sleeve back, but instead I'm just going to pull the pieces a little bit to align them and then just put in a pin. And then I can move to the back and just do the same thing, match and pin the underarm/side seam, and then work my way up towards the shoulder. Because if there's any ease in the sleeve, I want it sort of at the top of the shoulder in the back. You can see there's a little bit extra here, so I'm just pulling to align it again. There's still just a little bit of excess right there, so I'm just sort of splitting that in half and putting a pin in there, and then putting in a couple more pins to make sure that everything is smooth. And then I can go ahead and sew that sleeve on. I'm using a 3/4 inch seam allowance here. I've got the body on top of the sleeve as I'm stitching, and you can see I've chalked in my stitch line. I find it just a little bit easier to navigate some of these curves like that. I'm going pretty slow just to make sure that I don't end up with any puckers in the sleeve cap. Sometimes I actually like to put my hand underneath the body and just check that everything is smooth on the sleeve cap as I'm going. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim the seam allowance of just the body in half or just under half. And then I'm going to turn and press the seam allowance of the sleeve over that trim seam allowance of the body all the way around the arm's eye. And I'm using a tailor's ham underneath here just to make it a little bit easier to press some of those curves. And then from the right side, I'm going to press the seam allowance towards the body. I've got the tailor's ham underneath here again, just to help deal with that kind of 3D shape of the sleeve. I'm not trying to press this so it's perfectly flat. I'm actually creating just a little bit of a ridge or a lip. And this really helps you perfect kind of the shape of the arm's eye. And then from the right side, I put in my first line of top stitching right along that seam. And then I put in a second line of top stitching again from the right side, which should catch that folded edge and finish off the flat felt seam. You could totally do this from the wrong side, just following right along that folded edge, but I really wanted these lines of stitching to be nice and parallel, and I wasn't confident that my seam allowance on the wrong side was perfectly even, so I thought it would look better if I did it from the right side. And here's what it looks like from the wrong side all finished. This side turned out pretty good. But the sleeve, I ended up with a little bit right there that didn't quite get caught, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. And that's how I set these sleeves with a flat felled seam. Let me know if you have any questions.